But maybe we'll do a quick round table just to kind of introduce yourselves and the organisations you represent.
Yeah, my name's Jayde Pezet. I am one of the owners of Pezet Matheson with Toddy Matheson. Project marketer on the coast for the last sort of 25 years, specialising off the plan and also completed product. But yeah, look, it's been a long journey, and I think that's what project marketing is about. It's always a long game, and you know, being in there and doing the time. And these boys next to me are testament to exactly what we do every day, and that's what it's about.
Thanks, mate. Matt George, National Sales and Marketing Company, Urban Activation. So we operate in Melbourne, Sydney, Newcastle. We've done a job in Queenstown in New Zealand, but we've been on the coast for 5 years. Came up at the start of COVID without a job really, but our Melbourne developers followed us up here, and we're heading into our 7th tower of sales and marketing on the coast, and got a couple more to come next year.
Thanks, mate. Nick Clydsdale, Managing Director of SRQ Projects. Been on the Gold Coast flogging flats for 10 years. Worked at CBRE, started a new business about 18 months ago. Probably got 5 jobs in the market, about 700 million underway, and probably double that again next year. So,
welcome. We'll kick off with you, mate. Congratulations on the new business and securing those projects. Do you want to tell us a bit about what's different now versus 10 years ago when you're a little wet behind the ears, young whippersnapper coming over from Sydney? What's different today?
I think on the buyer side, the level of education of the buyer has improved significantly in the 10 years I've been up here. I sort of use the reference of in a project brochure. In the old days, the developer was the last page. And I think next year it'll probably be on the cover. But the level of education of what a buyer is after, their requirements in the purchase with information, the internet, whatever, I think that's really changed. I think the push away from physical marketing like the press and the swing towards digital has made the spend of a developer's money much more trackable. And like that journey slide you had, I'm still unconvinced on AI's real value in a person's decision to commit $2, $3, $10, $20 million.
I guess the question is like, can we get more people to talk to a person using AI? I don't think that AI is going to really replace what the human's going to do, but the question is, can AI more cost effectively result in more conversations for the agent?
I'm hesitant. I deactivate all the AI stuff on some of my tech. Some of the salespeople aren't influenced by a computer rating a buyer. I think we need to approach every opportunity to talk to a buyer equally. And I think that's probably enough talking for me at the moment.
I'll give you the 10,000 leads that you can give a call back over the next couple of weeks. Mr. Matt, what about you, Matt? Do you want to talk us through kind of what are you seeing on the coast and what's different from when you got started here?
Well, when we came here 5 years ago, I say to our developers all the time that probably in 2020, 2021, we could sell D grade to anybody. And then that's quickly evolved every year to C grade. It's all got to face the right way. The buyers are far more educated, as Nick said. The conversations are a lot deeper. And obviously back in COVID days, we couldn't get them to the coast. So it was a longer journey to get them evolved. But effectively, every year we've seen those buyers become more educated and understand who the developers are and who the builders are and what direction they're supposed to face and what finish they're supposed to have in their apartment. And it's become harder and harder not harder and harder, it's just that they have a specific requirement that we really have to get to close the deal. These guys are at the peak of their game. It's pretty competitive up here. It's still a regional town and we're all pretty much talking to the same people.
And do you find that the local people have ask different questions than the interstate guys, or is it pretty consistent from a consumer preference perspective?
We're a little bit different. We've done larger jobs in Southport and also in Service Paradise, and Jade's been here 25 years. But when Fagan rang me the first time and said, "Can you go and check out this thing in Palm Beach that Eddie owns?" I said, "Where's Palm Beach?" And living in Melbourne, I didn't know the difference between Southport and Kirra when I got here in 2020. So, I think the buyers are in the same boat. We get all caught up in this local town about the differences in those suburbs. There's definitely, more and more an education process, but the reality is there's still a hell of a lot of people out there that see the Gold Coast as the Gold Coast.
That's certainly what we're seeing from a search behaviour point of view as well. Like people are searching for the brand suburbs, and then it's kind of our job to help them find the thing. But that's definitely the case, particularly for the interstate guys, as you say. And Jade, the OG, 25 years.
It's a long time. I think I put my foot in it by sharing that. But look, for me, I grew up in Byron Bay, and I think the Gold Coast was always up there in shining lights. I used to come up here and surf, and it's such a special place. I think from when I first came here, obviously it was just AO floor plans, and it was not even videos, right? It was hardly even a model. So game's definitely changed, but so has the coast. And I think the evolution of our city that we live in has been mimicked with the way we market. And for a long period of time, and I'm sure the guys will agree, there was probably a 15-year period where I feel collectively as a group, we were doing the same thing. It was that model that Colliers, where Linda used to work, invented, and we mimicked it, and now we're seeing this level of technology flow in over the last few years, which has really, really changed the game.
And from a buyer point of view, do you find, obviously you would deal with buyers coming from interstate as well as local buyers, same question as with Matt, which is, do you find that those buyers ask different things, and how do you cater to different, interstate versus local?
Yeah, absolutely we change. It depends on what people want. It depends on the product that you're selling. Some of the projects we work on obviously have short-term letting schemes, and you find out from those buyers, if they're from interstate, whether they are going to be staying up here for 2 weeks of the year or a month a year. Do they plan on relocating when they retire? Then on the other side of things, a big part of our market over the last 5 years has certainly been around people downsizing, and that's still massive in the space that we play in. So it's horses for courses, of course, but at the same time, it's about reading your buyer. And to Nick's comment, with the AI or the technology, yes, you get through leads quicker, but again, is it better follow-up or is it a speed to market piece?
Yeah, my view is with the AI stuff, it's not ready for first contact. And I think it's a while away. I don't think in the next 12 months, an AI will work as effectively as an agent for a fresh lead coming through. I just don't see that happening. However, I think if you've got 10,000 or 5,000 inquiries that might be 2 years old, and you know that there's going to be about 1% of them that even have a heartbeat from an interest point of view, I think that's where AI is kind of a cost-effective way to find those buyers, so you can not be paying an agent that's going to be on your books, getting paid a large cost to be able to kind of go through and call 10,000 odd leads seems like an unproductive thing.
Yeah, and I think I totally agree with you, Mike. I think when you're breaking down a sale, obviously a lead comes in, you follow it up to a point. Is there room for AI in that? I think there certainly is, but when you get to the point of actually communicating in a really in-depth manner with these people, it needs to be one-on-one. You can't mimic tonality. You can't mimic mirroring someone. And obviously, if you're in a room, and we all know that selling face-to-face is the way that we all like to do it.
100%. There's much change. Maybe we'll go back to Nick and hopefully he says something nice about the AI. So obviously we had the kind of COVID period where it was very digital focused. Is that kind of translated through? And across the projects you're working on, what are the things that are really high quality marketing and sales strategies that you're seeing across your portfolio?
Well, I think that our current book of work would sit predominantly between $1 and $5 million on or by the beach, between Broadbeach and Coolangatta. And I found that over the last 10 years that the price growth in those suburbs has gone from, people would fly up from Sydney and the stuff was 700 grand, you'd be stupid not to buy it. And now it's 1.5 million and you really need to think about it. So there is definitely a Zoom, Teams, whatever conversation that builds a relationship to book a trip. But I think really a lot of the work that we are addressing in this conversation, and I think Matt and Jay would also, Christy and John, whoever would, building projects, is a lot of this work is done before you go to market. And you need to, I think Christy said it once to me, you've got to crack the code on why the buyer buys before you even push an ad online. I think we've got I think a lot of the job that the strategies that we see in market is work that has been thought about and committed to well before it's seen by the general public.
I mean, it's pretty hard to predict. I mean, you can have some prediction in terms of what's going to go on with interest rates and the like, but how do you kind of predict when you know that you've got to hit the bullseye or as close as you can in 2 years' time to get the product selection and so forth correct? How do you get that right?
I'm a photographer. I can tell you what's happening today. We don't know. You know, we know what we've seen before. We might have a go at what we think is going to happen. We look at trends. We look at some of our data. I'm not a research business. I'm a sales business, so we sell what we know is going to sell. And I think that it's just talking to people. It's talking to people, and I think a more important question is understanding why people don't buy or why they haven't bought yet. I think that answers a lot more than this is the best thing I've got here, blah, blah, blah.
And how do you find that, Matt? Obviously, when it was pretty new for you coming into the market, which is a while ago now, and obviously you've had a lot more experience on the ground. How did you find that, you know, entering the market and trying to help, you know, Fags and Co. get the right product for the right market, and what inputs go into that?
5 years ago, our competitors were much more friendly to me and gave me a lot more information. But now we have to work it out. I mean, we've got a lot of history. We've done $1 billion worth of sales since we've been here in 5 years. We're in a lot of locations. We get exposed to a lot of consultants in various states as well.
Shout out to Urbis.
But we, that's basically my job. We're involved, and I'm sure these boys are the same. We're not necessarily talking to buyers every day. Our job is generally to give our developers advice, probably 12 months before they enter the market, to look through our own data, to do the research on the suburbs and the demographics and how things have changed, look at the failures and the successes of the previous year. We're already doing that on the 3 jobs we're going to bring to market early in the new year, but I've been working on those jobs since February. That's been the history of urban activation. I'm sure these boys' businesses and the best project marketers are involved from the very start. We don't just get given boxes to move that have been thought through by other people. Our opinion is listened to, and that's the most success that we'll have as well.
Nice. And for you, Jade, as well, obviously you guys have got plenty of data and plenty of conversations to reference.
We do, and I think, look, data is so important for us, and I think, everyone in the room's the same, whether you're a developer, you're a project marketer, even the guys in advertising agencies, that some of the data and reports that we get are just so incredible these days, and a lot of them flow out of the back end of people's CRMs. I think relationships are so important, and having your eye on the ball. The Gold Coast is a small place, Southeast Queensland's a small place. Be open to talking to people, listen to people's feedback. It's a very different game that we play, I think, collectively to what real estate agents play. I find it a very closed space in the general real estate market. Whereas for us, as much as Matt joked about it, we all do talk, and we talk with a level of honesty, because if one of their projects doesn't get up, it affects my business dramatically. So I'd rather see everyone be effective, succeed, and drive the Gold Coast forward.
And on that note, over the next kind of 12 to 24 months, what types of projects or configurations do you kind of see working well for the GSA?
Yeah, I was speaking to someone earlier, and we spoke about, if you had your dream project, what would that look like? I think without a shadow of a doubt, you've got to look at where is the gap in the market, or where are the perceived gaps in the market if you're out there as a buyer. And I think smaller apartments, without a shadow of a doubt. I think the emergence of 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom apartments, smaller 2-bed, 2-baths. And for me, I think there needs to be a serious exploration, although I've done barely any projects on the western side of the Gold Coast Highway. There is just such a calling for that. And because the ocean, whether you're in Mermaid Beach or Palm Beach, is so close to that Gold Coast Highway, being on the other side of it, it's still so close to the ocean. So it feels to me the disparity in pricing between beachside and the other side of the Gold Coast Highway provides an incredible gap for developers to jump on.
Jesus, solid advice. Same. What do you reckon, Matt? What's your view
As
on
in what stock's being called for?
Yeah, 12, 24 months from now, if you're talking to the guys or we're talking to a customer and they're saying, where should we be looking to buy a site?
So we're talking about efficiency as well, and we're talking more about quantum price points as opposed to price per square metre. So, how tight can we make a 2-bed, 2-bath to hit that price point? Because it has really, and when you talk about the AI going back through the databases, the problem is that the lead from 4 years ago, 5 years ago, was paying half price for what they are now, can they even afford to be in the Gold Coast market as well? Efficiency, affordability, that's where we're sort of finding that middle gap. I'm nervous about the amount of $5 million plus stock that's out there. I think we're going to run out of millionaires to sell it to. But the reality is, we sell a lot to investors. So we're always about efficiency and hitting that quantum price point.
Nice. And for you, Nick, as well, I know you do a lot down the south side as well. What's your kind of view on where the market opportunity is?
I think what we've seen in the last year is buyers are willing to compromise on size before they compromise on price, which is kind of a tricky way of talking about affordability. But I think units are getting smaller. I think that trend out of Melbourne and Sydney is here. We've got a job in Nobby's Beach and we're selling 75 square metre 2-bedders for 1.6. So, they're pretty glamorous. It's a lovely product, but to see that type of product in the market, I didn't think it would be possible in COVID. And sort of to Matt's point, a lot of people came up and there's a lot of inertia of sites where people are half and full floor developers. I think the missing middle, that west side of the highway, the tight 2-bedder, the sub $2.5 million 3-bedroom by the beach is probably, a sweet spot where there's depth and there's ability to deliver.
Awesome. Thank all of you guys for coming up and sharing your insights. It was super solid and I found definitely useful. So appreciate it. Thanks, guys.